Hello and welcome back to 3+1 Media, where we talk about people, politics, and pop culture. And today in politics, we are talking about the choice made by Vice President Kamala Harris to be her vice president on the Harris 2024 ticket. And that man, look, people, he started out as a long shot, but the long shot has now become our best shot at winning in 2024. And that long shot, who is now the best shot, is Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. I'm sure that you've heard of it by the time that you see this video. It's all over social media. It's all over the news. This is pretty big news, pretty big deal, breaking news. But I want to give you some insight into this man, give a little bit of background, but also give you kind of what's out there in the press and what's being said, some clips that maybe you have seen, some clips that you probably have not seen, that give a well-rounded picture of who the man really is. Personally, I'm overjoyed. He was, for me personally, my top choice, but I thought to myself, there's no way this man is going to win. There's no way he's going to get it. This is the piece of short form content that I created for the Clock app. So you can take a look at this and it gives you some really good insight and some background on the man. A nominee for VP, but who is he really? Well, that's exactly what this video is going to do and attempt to break down so that you know more about Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Back in time and start in the middle, and I'm going to tell you why this long shot has suddenly become Kamala's best shot to win president in 2024. Picture it, not Sicily nor St. Olaf, but instead Mankato, Minnesota, where Tim Walz was a high school history teacher and state championship winning football coach. It's 2004 and he had just arranged a field trip for a group of his high school students to go to a rally where President George W. Bush was going to be speaking. In the town that he lived in, Mankato, he wasn't born there. He was actually born in Nebraska, but moved to Mankato for his job as a teacher. Took these students to see President Bush, but they didn't get to see him that day. They actually weren't even allowed in the rally because one student in the group had a wallet that had a Kerry for President sticker. John Kerry was the man who was running against President Bush, and as a result, the entire class, including Tim, were turned away. That ignited a fire in this man, Tim Walz. And the very next day, he went and volunteered for the Kerry for President campaign. And in 2006, he won his local congressional seat in a rural district that had been held by a Republican for 12 years. This long shot, who is now the best shot, was a former high school English teacher, a championship winning football coach, served the American people as a congressman for 12 years, served the American people as a member of the National Guard, protecting local interests for 24 years. And is the current sitting governor of Minnesota, where he has signed legislation codifying a woman's right to bodily autonomy into law, legalized controlled substance, enacted new Second Amendment rights control laws, provided free lunch to all public school students, and added a legal path to migrants to the state to receive driver's license so that they could safely get to work and contribute to the American economy. That is Tim Walz, Vice President Kamala Harris's choice to be VP. With all of that said, all that background given, especially his work in education, his 24 years of serving our nation domestically and abroad when needed as a member of the National Guard, I honestly thought to myself, there's no way this man is going to make it. He's not going to be the pick. Rarely is someone who is as down to earth and as authentic as Tim Walz, rarely do they have a chance to ascend to the top of the party ticket. Really was the underdog in this race. He really was a long shot. But I knew that his efforts to move Minnesota forward and his commitment to doing the work for the right reasons was something that it won my heart, and I knew that it would also win the hearts of the American people if they got a chance to know this man. So I'm fired up and excited about it. And I'm really not the only one in that video. One of the leadership roles that Tim Walz holds currently, and that is he is the chairman of the board of Democratic governors. So of all the Democratic governors in the United States of America, he is like their leader, like their president. He's chairman of that group. And this is what his fellow Democratic governor, a new governor, Katie Hobbs, out of Arizona, had to say about this choice.
You should have been in my house and heard my scream when I saw the news this morning. I'm absolutely thrilled that Vice President Harris has chosen him to be her running mate. I've had the chance to work with him directly on many issues and have seen firsthand his dedication to the American people. And I know the governors know what it takes to deliver for their states, and I am confident that Governor Walz and Vice President Harris will deliver for Arizonans.
But what does he bring to the ticket? I mean, Mark Kelly at least helps with the border. Teacher, tell me what he brings to the ticket.
Governor Walz is America. I mean, he's, as you said, a former high school teacher, a football coach. He's a hunter. He's a runner. I mean,
one of the clips that really endeared me to Tim Walz early on was a clip from CNN. And I want you to hear how Jake Tapper, one of my least favorite people in journalism, take a look at this interview that Tim gave to CNN's Jake Tapper.
Marijuana, you passed universal background checks on guns, you expanded LGBTQ protections, you implemented tuition-free college for low-income Minnesotans. There's free breakfast and lunch for school kids. Do you think your record is an asset to the ticket, or would it risk fueling Trump's attacks as you being a big government liberal?
What a monster. Kids are eating and having full bellies so they can go learn, and women are making their own health care decisions. And we're a top 5 business state, and we also rank in the top 3 of happiness. Look, they're going to label whatever they're going to label. He's going to roll it out, mispronounce names, to try and make the case. The fact of the matter is, where you see the policies that Vice President Harris was a part of making, Democratic governors across the country executed those policies, and quality of life is higher, the economies are better, all of those things. Educational attainment is better. So yeah, my kids are going to eat here, and you're going to have a chance to go to college, and you're going to have an opportunity to live where we're working on reducing carbon emissions. Oh, and by the way, you're going to have personal incomes that are higher, and you're going to have health insurance. So if that's where they want to label me, I'm more than...
He's not only being attacked by CNN, he's being heavily attacked by Fox News. Kayleigh McEnany also levied a whole entire barrage of what she thought would be things that make him a bad choice or a negative. But to me, many of these things are positives. If this is the best that Fox News has in terms of trying to disparage this man, they are in a whole lot of trouble. Look at this.
Well, facts still matter, so let's look back at his record. Walz's first executive order as governor was to create a diversity, equity, and inclusion council. He also supported open borders.
He talks about this wall. I always say, let me know how high it is. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 30-foot ladder factory.
And he pushed socialism.
Don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. Just do the damn work.
Oh, wait, and there's more. He signed an executive order protecting gender-affirming care or surgeries for minors in his state. And in 2020, he was the governor of Minnesota during the George Floyd riots that burned part of Minneapolis to the ground. It was so bad that Walz himself called out his own response.
I got a call from a friend and a dedicated public servant. Senator Torres Ray called in her district, and it was on fire. And there weren't any police there. There weren't any firefighters. There was no social control, and her constituents were locked in their house wondering what they were going to do. That is an abject failure that cannot happen. If the issue is that the state should have moved faster, yeah, that is on me.
Donald Trump and J.D. Vance's election depends on the strength of white voter turnout, and Governor Tim Walz is certainly going to cut into that even more so, been diminished by the choice of Vice President Harris at the top of the ticket. This is how Fox News addressed the white male voter issue and how Tim is going to impact that.
A substantial number of white men without college degrees in Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania who voted in 2016 but sat out 2020. And a lot of what the theory of the case was for the presentation in Milwaukee during the convention is to go after those men and get them to vote in 2024, which would give Donald Trump a chance in Wisconsin, give him a chance in Michigan, and also in Pennsylvania, Brett.
I agree with you. I mean, this guy hunts. He ice fishes. You know, he's one of those guys. He talks about rural America and how Donald Trump doesn't understand it. on the flip side, Donald Trump and the former president and J.D. Vance are talking directly to those folks and trying to get those folks, just like they built that coalition Trump did in 2016. You know, listen, we just have to think about the party, the Democratic Party, the delegates themselves are really controlled by progressives. And, you know, if you think back to the power of Bernie Sanders after 2016, when Hillary Clinton goes on to get that nomination, you know, the power inside was very progressive. And it still may be, because labor, you know, weighed in on the scales on this choice. Progressives in the party weighed in. And this is who Vice President Harris chose.
Hang on one second here, Brett. A lot of reaction coming in. I'm just going to read this for our viewers. Here's Ron DeSantis out of Florida. Harris Walz, most left-wing ticket in American history. Minnesota was ground zero for the BLM riots in 2020. Harris egged it on, and Walz sat by and let Minneapolis burn. So that's his initial reaction. Kellyanne Conway, who works with us here, she crunches numbers all over the country. She says, Tim Walz, ? What a relief. That on X right now. Jillian?
Walz did come to some sort of social media, internet notoriety over the last week or so, Brett. He's given the credit for coining the term weird to describe the Republican ticket. That's obviously taken off among the Harris crowd. Do you think this may be a case of the campaign choosing the shiniest object in the room?
They like how he talks. They like how he addresses media interviews. He's been on our shows. He's not afraid to get, like J.D. Vance, he's not afraid to go to different places. He's not afraid to mix it up. He does speak in plain speak. He's a former football coach, you know, former teacher. He has that appeal.
And when you speak about white male voters, Tim was on a call for White Men for Kamala. And his speech, excellent work. Look at this.
Echo that message of hope. My oldest daughter's name is Hope. And that's because my wife and I spent 7 years trying to get pregnant, needed fertility treatments, things like IVF, things that they would ban. And so once again, I keep talking about this idea. You're right. These guys are the anti-freedoms. I grew up in a small town, 400 people, 24 kids in the class, 12 cousins. And I hear J.D. Vance trying to talk about what a small town is. There's one golden rule in a small town. Those of you who are from a small town, mind your own damn business. We don't need it. I don't know who's asking for this crazy stuff that they're pushing. Who's asking to ban birth control? Who's asking to raise the price of insulin? I'm a Legion Club member, and none of the dudes there are asking to cut veterans benefits like Project 2025 does. So look, that's not where folks are at. I represented a rural district. Donald Trump won it by 15 points in 2016 when I won. Those are folks that want a fair shot. We need to point out to this. The reason rural America hurts is because robber barons like these guys have come in there. These are the guys that take money out of our public schools for private schools to give vouchers to people already going to private school. They undermine the basic social safety net that makes this country great. So when I hear you on here, I heard Josh talking about hope. That is exactly right. That's what we need. And then coupled with that, because my wife reminds me of this, she said, hope is the most powerful word in the universe, but it's not a damn plan. We need a plan to win, and that's what you guys are doing. That's what smashing that button does. That's what's calling. And again, this is preaching to the choir, but the choir needs to sing. The choir needs to sing. This is our moment. This is not just transformational for one election. This is transformational for several generations. But here's the thing that I take responsibility for. We're not in this alone. The rest of the world needs us to be here. These guys throwing our NATO allies under the bus, the idea that they don't care what happens in the rest of the world, not addressing climate change that's going to impact communities that are less fortunate than anyone else. Those are the things it has to do. We have communities that are going to pay the price because we don't address it. Here's the great news. How often in 100 days do you get to change the trajectory of the world? How often in 100 days do you get to do something that's going to impact generations to come? And how often in the world do you make that bastard wake up afterwards and know that a black woman kicked his ass and sent him on the road? And you know that's something that guy's going to have to live with for the rest of his life. So I got to tell all of you, please, please do what you can. Please talk. Look, I got Florida Man as a brother. We all got him in our families. But these are our neighbors and our relatives. And at heart, they're good people. They're not mean-spirited. They're not small. They're not petty like they hear on stage. They're angry. They're confused. They're frustrated. They feel like they got left behind sometimes. But we can get out there.
Reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. Just do the damn work. So I got to tell you, when I see this, it lifts me up. I'm inspired. I see it. Again, anti-Tommy Tuberville, this is the first day of football. We're all in this. We're all undefeated. We got an opportunity on this. I want to be standing in that day in November when we're playing for the big one, and I'll take us. And again, keep hammering on these guys. This idea of calling them out for who they are, shrink them. Is he a danger to society? Yes. Is he a danger to women's health? Yes. Is he a danger to world peace? Yes. But don't give him more credit than he needs. He's just a strange, weird dude, as we've been saying. Pick that in the pace. Pick up the work. Do the work. Donate. Call. Talk to your neighbors. Let's win this thing. No regrets at the end of this.
I can't be more excited for this ticket. I'm proud of Vice President Harris for not giving in to a lot of pressure and picking someone who has always done good work, who has always stood on the right side of issues, and who has first and foremost represented his constituents, the people of Minnesota. Personally, that is what I look for. That's what I look for in an exemplary lawmaker. It's not about what I want you to do. It's not about what the majority of Americans may want you to do. It's about your elected constituents as a member of the House of Representatives, as well as then a member of the Senate, and of course as a governor. And very few people have executed as well as Tim Walz. Very proud of his record, very proud of his accomplishments, and very excited about this ticket. But of course, I want to know what you think as you're learning more about the man. I know you probably had a different choice. Maybe you wanted Beshear, maybe you wanted Cooper, maybe you wanted Shapiro, maybe you wanted Kelly, maybe you wanted Whitmer or Gavin Newsom. Perhaps you wanted Pete, but you got Walz. Now that you know more about him, I want to know what you think. Leave me some thoughts and notes in the comments. As always, be well, be blessed, and whatever you do, keep pushing. With that being said, I'll see you soon.